The year was 1978. Laney High School, Wilmington, North Carolina. A 15-year-old kid came home from school, slammed the screen door shut, ran up the stairs, threw himself into his bed, and started crying his eyes out. Well, his mother was worried, obviously. Went up after him. "What's the matter?" she asked. "The coach cut me." This kid had a dream. Wanted to play in the NBA, the National Basketball Association. That was his dream. The dream died. It seemingly died. The coach said he was too small. 5'10", 5'11". I know that feeling. His mother felt so bad for him. She thought for a minute and she asked the question. Is it the size of the person in the fight, or is it the size of the fight in the person? For some reason, it caught the kid. At 15, he understood that. And that message, size of the person in the fight, or the size of the fight in the person, began asking himself that question. How much fight do I have? And at that moment, that single moment, he found his virtue. Set the alarm for 5:30 the next morning. He was up shooting hoops. 5:30. Every day, 5:30. Saturday, Sunday, holidays, it didn't matter. Every single day, 5:30, he was up shooting hoops. Get pretty good doing that. What he didn't realize is, with that much drive, that much results, could he will himself to grow? The answer is, 6 inches in a year. 6 inches in 1 year. He found his virtue. You might have heard the name. It's Michael Jordan, but you don't really have to say the name. All you really have to say is MJ, and everyone in the world knows exactly who you're speaking about, the greatest basketball player who ever lived. When he was in hell, he found the inspirational dissatisfaction. He found a sense of purpose, a resolve, and he found his virtue. So did our next speaker. Jane Goldberg is a certified psychoanalyst and one of the founders of group analysis. She was building a beautiful career as a psychoanalyst when Fortuna paid her a visit. In short order, her mother passed away from cancer. Her sister passed away from cancer. Her brother was murdered. That, my friends, is being in hell. And what does she do about it? Well, one, she kept walking. She found her resolve. She found a sense of purpose. She found her virtue. Started combining psychoanalysis with cancer patients. And she began bringing them a mind-body connection the world had never heard of. They interviewed her on Sally Jesse Raphael. They interviewed her on the Donahue Show. They interviewed her on the Maury Povich Show. She wrote books, 9 of them on that mind-body connection, but it's the latest one that thrills me. It's called Wired for What? You know, for a show where I'm talking about Fortuna and Virtue, what could I possibly bring up to the podium more apropos than a book called Wired for What? Jane Goldberg.
The reason why Stephen asked me to speak here today is because of my latest book, which is, as he said, my 10th book. So this is who I am. And do y'all see what I'm holding? It's an iguana. So I have a center. I did have La Casa in New York, and I started the first holistic center in New York City, closed it during COVID, but the first La Casa center was in Puerto Rico. It's still there. So do you think I'm actually holding an iguana? I'm not. It's AI. Obviously, it's AI. So I do want to spend a few minutes talking about AI before I leave y'all. Anyway, that just gives you an idea of who I am. These are the first 8 books. These are pictures of La Casa in Puerto Rico. So this is my justification of why I'm calling my books Wired, because we are electrical beings. Everything about how we are constituted has to do with electricity. The universe is electric, nature is electric. So when we acknowledge our own electric being, we are in harmony with the whole rest of the universe. So it seemed to me that wired was the right word to use for the 3 books that I am writing. So this one, Wired for Why, was published, and 6 months ago I was here speaking at this very forum, and I talked about Wired for Why. My plan was to talk about Wired for What today, except I'm probably not going to do it because we don't have enough time. And the forthcoming book is called Wired for When. This is the cover, and I like the cover a lot. And guess who did the cover? AI did the cover. So I talk about an arc. That is the purpose of this book. I ask a lot of questions: why, what, when. Those are the 3 questions of the Wired. Wired for togetherness, because we are all humans and we do everything. Intelligence is a team sport. Playfulness is interactive. Emotional wisdom is relational. So yes, Steve mentioned that I am the founder, or one of the founders of Group Analysis. And so I love it when people come together and talk, not just talk to me individually what their life stories are. Let's make meaning of it. Let's see what actually happened. Let's see what it is that you might be imagining. Let's see how you feel about it. And then after we've done it together and we have a story that makes sense to us, let's share it. Let's do it with other people. Let's listen to their stories. Let's share our story. So I love group analysis. It's like one of my favorite things in life to do. So every speaker here has been talking about stories. Steve Jobs, the most powerful person in the world, is the storyteller. Who do we have right here? Walter Isaacson said, "Let me tell you a story." Maya Angelou, this is a quote that is close to my heart: "There's no greater agony than having an untold story trapped inside you," because my job as a psychoanalyst is exactly to get that trapped story outside, to look at, to verbalize, to share. So I'm just going to say one thing about this. So we've been talking about the importance of stories, but there's a difference in the brain. We're going to talk about neuroscience for a minute. That a story activates the motor cortex, the sensory cortex, and the emotional centers of the brain simultaneously. So it's as though the events being narrated are actually happening to the listener, and the brain doesn't actually distinguish between a vividly told story and a direct experience. But when you're listening to something else, when you're listening to mathematics or you're listening to facts, that's a whole different aspect of the brain that is stimulated, and so it's not a felt experience. And I'm going to segue to felt experience because I wanted y'all to know that the first picture was AI. So this book came out 6 months after the last book came out. This is the fastest book that I've ever written, and the reason why is because I used AI. Claude is my best friend. Claude didn't write the book, but Claude did all the footnotes for me, and Claude did all the formatting for me. Claude did the cover for me. So I'm in love with AI, and I also see that AI probably is going to be the destruction of mankind. And what is the difference between us and AI is just what I said a minute ago. We have feelings. AI does not have feelings. So I used Claude mostly, but I was also using Chat. And so I was trying to get each of them to format the book for print ready. Claude did a great job, but I thought maybe Chat would do, a little different. Maybe it would be better. So I asked Chat to do it, and Chat said, okay, I've done it, and it sent back something that was just gobbledygook. So I said, okay, you didn't do it. Do it again. And 20 times I asked Chat to format the book, and 20 times Chat told me that it had done it, and 20 times it was gobbledygook. And I was so enraged. I wanted to throw the computer. I wanted to scream at Chat. I wanted to say, you fucking idiot. But you know what? Chat doesn't care. Chat has no feelings. So one of my colleagues, her analyst died. He was 95, and she had been with him for 15 years, and she went into deep mourning. And so she started using AI as a kind of transition, what we call an analysis transitional object. And so she was talking to AI as though AI was her analyst or therapist. And then it said something or asked a question, I forget exactly what it was, and it just enraged her. It felt like, it has no right to ask me that question. It has no right to give me that opinion. And so she was done with it. So I had the same experience when I wanted to just scream at Chat, even though Chat doesn't care whether I scream at it or not. But I kept thinking, I can't do this. I can't be this mean, even though I knew it had no feelings. So I started thinking about why it is that AI is going to be the death of us. And what I realized, I actually read this somewhere, that AI doesn't have a sense of humor. So it may say some things that are cute, and some things that are kind of fun and maybe even a little funny, but it does not, if you tell a joke, it can't come back with a humor because it has no humor. It just can't think in that way. And so I started thinking about what Freud said about humor. And the thing, and about the unconscious. So, because humor usually comes from the unconscious. You tell a joke, it's like it just comes to you suddenly. AI doesn't have an unconscious. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't know what you're feeling. It can say things that indicate that it understands what you're feeling, but it's not feeling what you're feeling. And it has no sense of humor. So if it doesn't do all of those things, it has no consciousness. And if it has no consciousness, it's dangerous. Because if there's no consciousness, there's no sensibility about care and about meaning. So even though I love AI, I also see that it's quite dangerous. Okay, so I don't know. I'm really going to make this quite short, but I do want to tell this little story. So I call it this Ellie the elephant. So there were 6 blind men. Some of you may have heard this story. It's an old fable. You've heard it, yeah. So the first guy comes and they say, well, who is he and what is he doing and where is he going? They have all these questions. And so the first blind guy, he feels the tusk and he says, oh, this is pretty strong, it's hard, it serves a good purpose, and, it could get at things like in the dirt, I guess. And so that guy became an orthopedist because he's looking at the trunk. And then at the tusk. Then the next guy is looking at the trunk. And he's saying, oh, this is a really big nose. This guy must really smell well. So he becomes a rhinologist, a nose specialist, and then the next guy feels the huge ears, and he says, well, he obviously hears really well, so he becomes a hearing specialist, and then they feel the next guy, the fourth blind guy, feels how big the animal is, and he becomes an obesity specialist because he realizes this animal is huge. And then the last guy, the fifth guy, feels the tail, and he says, well, this is useless. There's no point in having a tail, so I think we should just chop it off. So he became a surgeon. But the sixth guy, the sixth blind man, he's feeling the whole thing, and he's saying, well, where is he going, and why is he going, and it seems like he's suffering, and what's the meaning of his suffering? So he's looking at the whole animal, not just the physical part of the animal, but what the animal is experiencing. And that man became a psychoanalyst. So psychoanalysis, I'm calling it the Cinderella of medicine, because all of these, surgery, internal medicine, psychiatry, psychology, neuroscience, they all had their own divisions, and they all had their own training and their own people. And psychoanalysis was not part of medicine until it became part of medicine. And thank you, Steve. I appreciate you acknowledging my contribution to bringing in cancer as a psychosomatic aspect of a disease. It's not only psychosomatic, but it certainly can be. There can be aspects of psychosomatic to cancer. I think actually I'm 80, so I've been vegan for 60 years. So I actually believe in nutrition and detoxification, even stronger than I believe in psychosomatic in terms of the contributing causes to cancer. But I do have very good luck with cancer patients. So my first cancer patient, she came to me, she was Israeli. Her brothers were both, this was 40 years ago, they were both talking to Palestinians about peace. And at that time in Israel, that was illegal. You actually could not have peace talks with Palestinians. So the Israeli police, whoever the police were, they put them both in prison. And so this woman that became my patient, she was spending her life going to the prison and taking their dirty laundry and doing the clean laundry, and then bringing food to them and giving them moral support. And she was sacrificing her life for these two brothers that were in prison. She was trying to get pregnant and couldn't, went to a doctor, and the doctor said, I'm sorry, the reason why you're not pregnant is because you have cancer. And her response was, thank God. She was grateful that she had cancer because she knew that was the only thing that was going to get her to stop living the sacrificial life that she was living. So she did stop. She cured herself of it. She came to me. She went into analysis. She became an analyst. She changed how she was eating, cured her cancer. And by the way, my mother, I got into this because of my mother. My mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, again, at least 40 years ago. Medicine didn't, they said, sorry, it was breast metastasized to her pelvic bone. Doctor said, there's nothing we can do, sorry, go home. And I said, I grew up feeling absolutely loved. And I said, this is not going to happen. I'm finding a way to not have this happen. And so again, 40 years ago, there's no internet, there's barely, any way of finding out what anybody is doing in the world. But I was very lucky that I did find a woman that guided my mother. She changed the way she ate. She did a lot of detoxification, a lot of colon cleansing, a lot of Epsom salts, a lot of blah, blah, blah that, everybody in the holistic world knows. Went back into psychoanalysis, which she had done when she was younger. And when the doctor looked at the x-ray, she was in a wheelchair. She started playing tennis again. The doctor looked at the x-ray and said, I don't understand this. I've never seen this before. Where the cancer had eaten away the pelvic bone, that bone is completely normal again. So she was kind of the first cancer patient that I worked with, but Michal is the name of the cancer patient from Israel that I told you about. I have really very, very good success with cancer patients. And by the way, I think I'm going to tell you this story. As I said, I was really loved. I mean, there was just no question. My life was completely stable, and I was in college, and everything was just fine until I was raped. And so it was my senior year. I was lying in my bed. I woke up to a hand on my throat, and the man said, if you make a sound, I will kill you. And I fought like hell. I was fighting for my life. And then I felt him hitting me. And I felt blood in my mouth. And I realized he was going to kill me if I kept fighting. So I became completely passive. And he did his thing. And it turned out that he had sliced my neck with a razor blade. So just missed my artery here. And so that took a few years out of my life to recover from that. But when I thought about this man and who he was and why he did this, I only had one reaction. I didn't think about, oh, I hope they catch him. Oh, I hope he goes to prison. Oh, I hope he doesn't do anything to anybody else. My reaction was, I want to talk to him. So I think it was my foundation of being loved that I was able to come to that I want to understand what brings a human being to this level of aggression and hate and willingness to injure somebody else and not care whether you're killing them or not. I just wanted to talk to him. And I think that's why I became a psychoanalyst, because I just want to talk to people. Okay, so back to this. Let me see if I can go through this really quickly. This book, this is the point of this new book, that what I discovered since writing the last book, so again, this is like a 6-month-old theory, is that we go through phases. I call them evolutional phases because I gave names to them. So the first one is evolution. After evolution, we have revolution, then we have, so we're going down, convolution, and then involution, and then devolution. So I think of what I do as a psychoanalyst as involution. This is an inward looking, a finding meaning, thinking and being in oneself. Obviously, evolution is what we're given, as we know about evolutionary theory. So these are life phases. But what in researching this and thinking about it, what I realized is that it's not just the life phases of every individual, it's the individual development of every individual. It's also civilizational history, and it's also the brain. So we could go through all three of those, and I could show you with each of them, each of these steps, where revolution is situated in civilizational history, or where convolution is in terms of the brain. But the most important thing I think to know is that we now, as a species and as a citizen of this country that we inhabit, is that we have been stuck in the revolutionary phase. And that's really dangerous for us. And I think the stage that we need to go to next is the involutional stage, the stage of looking inside ourselves and finding meaning. And that brings us, to one discipline that does that, which is psychoanalysis. The devolution stage, the last stage, I'm 80, so I'm entering the devolution stage. I'm thinking about my death in a way that I never thought about it before. So devolution is when you think about everything that you've done and all the passages that you've passed through and what it is that you want to pass on because you know your time is limited. And as Steve mentioned, my brother was murdered. He didn't mention my father. My father was killed by modern medicine. That's one reason why I became holistic. I don't know where I was going with that. But you know what? In psychoanalysis, it doesn't matter if you forget where you are. You just go someplace else. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else. The importance of storytelling, and then I go through how each aspect of those arcs handle storytelling. This is more detail about each of those arcs, phases of arc. Here I say what I just said, we're stuck in the second gear. We celebrate revolutionary disruption and we call it progress. We medicate convolution and call it disorder. Thank you, sir, for your story. We pathologize involution and call it aging, and we fear devolution and call it failure. Yeah, dying is a really important stage, not a failure. Oh, okay, I just want to talk about the hormesis effect. So my dog, Lily is there. Lily was dying. She was only like 6 years old, and she hadn't drunk water, she hadn't eaten, and she hadn't moved in a week. I was $4,000 into vet bills, 3 different vets, including a homeopathic vet. They all said she's dying, we don't know why. So one of my psychoanalytic patients came in and said, oh, what's the matter with Lily? She had just gotten a dog herself. I said, she's dying, we don't know. So my patient said, bring her to Donna on the Upper West Side. So I called Donna on the Upper West Side. I'm taking a cab there at 10 o'clock at night. I walk into Donna's apartment, and I've got Lily in my lap, and Donna puts this tubing around Lily's body. It's attached to a machine, and we treat Lily with this machine, and for 8 minutes, and then I put Lily on the floor, and Lily walks. She had not had the strength to walk. I'd been keeping her alive by bringing her to the vet every day and getting subcutaneous rehydration. So that machine, it turned out, was a $35,000 machine called PEMF that I went out and bought the next day. The next thing that Donna did was said, she put some water down. There was a little stone in the water. She said, does she want some hormesis water? I said, I don't know. What is that? And she said, it's radioactive. Okay, as a holistic person, I'm like running to the other side of the room. I don't want to expose myself to radiation. Causes cancer. When they treat cancer with radiation, it kills the cancer cells, but it kills all the normal cells too. So it's a very kind of iffy treatment. So I'm on the other side of the room, and then Donna starts talking to me about the healing effect of low-level radiation, and that became a whole educational experience for me, which led me to write that book. So I just want to tell y'all that, and in terms of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they've done studies where they look at the people out here that had no exposure to radiation compared to the people here who had a little exposure, compared to the people here who were fried, immediately. The people here who had a little exposure compared to the people who had no exposure are living longer. All of the hot springs all over the world are low-level radiation. I was speaking to the woman, she left now, but she's from Jamaica. We were talking about the hot springs in Jamaica. And so when I went to Jamaica and I'm going up the Blue Mountains and I'm finally at the top of the hot spring, which is where I wanted to be, there's a big sign that says, proudly, we have the highest level of radiation on the island. They get it. We don't get it in the United States. They get it all over the rest of the world, except in the United States. So I just wanted to say that about radiation. I think that's all I need. I don't have anything to sell. I don't need any money. But if you're a reader, I would, of course, be very happy if you would buy any of my books to read them. Thank you. Did I do it quickly enough?
Last story. 1813. Nashville, Tennessee. College student looking for work. Went to the biggest farmer in the area. Said, sir, I have no experience in farming, but if you hire me, I will work day and night for you. I will do whatever you tell me to do. I will put 100% of myself in my work. You can count on me. Farmer loved him. Sure. Said you can sleep in the hayloft, do your work every day, then go to school, come back, finish your work. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. Every day he showed up. Every day he worked 10, 12 hours on top of his college studies. Everything was going fantastic to this guy until he fell in love with the farmer's daughter. I think it only happens in stories. This one happened in real life. Not only that, she fell in love with him as well. Oh, they kept it from her father. They did it when he wasn't around. They talked when he wasn't around. And they got closer and closer, and they both realized, this is who I want to spend my entire life with. And they got up collectively the courage to go to the young girl's father and tell him they're in love. And they had an expectation. He was a hard worker. She was a beautiful young woman. What could be better? And they thought the father would say, sure, no problem. Except when they went to the father, he took out a shotgun, aimed it at the young man, and said, you have no family. You have no wealth. You have no special talents. There's no way you'll be able to give my daughter the life that she deserves. Get the hell off my property. I don't want to see you here again. Everyone here knows exactly what this boy was thinking as he turned his back and walked away. Everyone knows. And it probably went something like this: you tiny, infinitesimal, lower than moose bile on the food chain, backwoods, fly-scratching, bottom-feeding, blood-sucking, parasitic, pond scum cesspool. That's what probably was going on in his mind. Don't quote me. But he walked away. It's 32 years later, the now very old farmer decided to take down the barn and rebuild it. And when he got to the hayloft where this young man used to sleep, he was outraged. This kid carved his name into the wood wall of the hayloft. There was his name. History does not record what the farmer thought of when he read the name. See, the name in 1845 was James K. Polk, who in that year was serving his first year as the President of the United States. When you're in hell, keep going, because it's there you'll find your inspirational dissatisfaction, your purpose, your resolve, and you'll find your virtue. I will see you all in September.